Hello everybody, it is Brody time, and welcome back to Ace Attorney Investigations. When we last left off, we asked for Detective Bad to tell us about the KG8 incident in Ligata. We learned some more information on that, and then we were called to the courtroom by the judge to transfer the evidence from the case over to us. We've been taking a look at that evidence, and we found out that only the person who knew about the mechanisms of the Yatagarasu's key could have committed the murder, which knocks Gumshoe right out of suspicion, because who would tell that idiot anything? I'm sorry. He's a good guy, but he is not the brightest. But let us continue, and let's see. This gun was originally used to kill the Cadopian Embassy staff member, and the crime was reported. The responding police found Mr. Well still holding it, which led to his immediate arrest. And then, this gun took the original shooter's life. How ironic. Indeed, there doesn't seem to be anything else we can learn from this piece of evidence. That's odd. We're short of one piece of evidence, and the piece that's missing is the surveillance video that was played in court. A surveillance video? How could a piece of evidence just disappear? Where did it go? This video is showing the moment in which Mr. Well committed the murder. Where could it have gone indeed? Are you done with your inspection of the evidence? Yes, I'm finished. However, Your Honor, I am missing a single piece of prosecutorial evidence. Your Honor, were you derelict in your duties? What? No! I dare not neglect my duties. What do you take me for? No, Your Honor, the most important piece of evidence in today's trial. The surveillance video is not amongst the evidence you laid out for me. I brought Mr. Faraday's whole bag with me from the crime scene. Maybe the tape is still somewhere at the crime scene. There's something wrong here. Something about this missing piece of evidence. It would appear that for me to find the answers I seek, I will have to pay another visit to the scene of crime defendant lobby number 2. That's too bad. But who is he with? I've never seen that officer before. So, did you find it? No, not yet, and I've looked everywhere. I see. Well then, please continue with the search. Understood. I'll continue the search. Heh, so you're the one running this show. Prosecutors like you should even be allowed at crime scenes. How dare you? Just who do you think you are? What was that all about, and who was that man just now? Whoever he was, I've never seen a more impudent officer in my life. Does he even know that we're standing right here behind him? I know you're standing right behind him. What do you want, kids? Looks like you were paying attention after all. Looks like you were paying attention after all. Of course I was. I have eyes in the back of my head. Ah, so that mirror isn't for vanity's sake. It's for him to keep an eye out on who or what is behind him at all times. So tell me, Detective Bad, who is that rude man just now? The guy came here from the Republic of Zhengfa to study his Agent Lang. He's trying everything he can to revive the lost honor of his family. He's traveling the world to study different philosophies of detainment from scratch. By visiting various police departments around the world, he has a lot of dedication. He's still just a rookie cop, but I sense a strong grudge of some sort from him. This guy's more useful than Gumshoe, even if he is rude. Well, he shows a lot of guts to come to this country and give prosecutors a hard time. I agree. However, I can think of one young lady that statement also applies to. Anyway, what was the agent looking for, Detective Bad? Well, yes, that little girl was poking around in the lobby number 1 as well. Like I said before, it's got nothing to do with the two of you. I highly doubt that it has nothing to do with me. Fine, if it's the game I must play, then I will take this opportunity to draw out what he's been hiding and what happened in this room straight from him. Earlier, you were in lobby number 1, and you're here in lobby number 2. You're quite the busy man, Detective Bad. Multiple returns to a crime scene brings about success. That's what we detectives say. I see. In that case, you wouldn't mind if I asked you about what happened again, correct? I don't have anything left to say to you. So, boy, you'll see. I will draw my answer from you one way or another. Would it kill you to help us even in tiny bits in our investigation? I gave Faraday's notebook to the judge earlier. That's help enough. Don't you think? Darn! Please, we are asking for you just a bit more of your cooperation. Don't push me, kid. Detective Bad, did you know of the existence of the item in this photograph? Of course I did. It's my job to know everything, related to the Yatagarasu case. In that case, let me ask you something. Did you know that the knife that killed Mr. Faraday and this Yatagarasu's key are one and the same? What? That's impossible! It looks like he didn't know after all. This piece of evidence, which we call the Yatagarasu's key, is actually a well-camouflaged knife. Mr. Faraday was planning to use Yatagarasu's key to prove that Mr. Well was not the real Yatagarasu. Isn't that correct? I guess so. However, Mr. Faraday had no idea that it was, in fact, a knife. Yeah, I have to admit, neither one of us knew that fact. If neither of us knew, then no one in law enforcement knew either. How did we miss something as big as this? I noticed that just a little while ago, you appeared to be searching for something. I presume that this key is what you were searching for. Yeah, that's right. And why were you searching for it? Because I promised Faraday. I promised that I'd protect that key with my life. But after he was killed, the key disappeared from Faraday's evidence bag. Who would have thought that the key is what took Faraday's life? Detective Bad. So that we may find the truth, please testify to me once more. Alright. But it doesn't matter how many times I tell you about what happened. Nothing will change. Detective Bad, I ask that you please testify once more about what happened in lobby number 2 and what you experienced in lobby number 1. My answer is still the same. And this is the last time I'm going to do this. That's fine, because I only need this one last time to clear everything up. Find the truth behind this case. I was in lobby number 1, talking with you. We were talking about some trivial things. I heard the gunshot right before the trial was about to reconvene. When we heard it, you and I immediately dashed out into the hallway together. I saw Gunshot goofing around there, and then we all ran into lobby number 2. It sounds like the exact same story you told us before. Indeed, but I feel like we have yet to draw out all the information that we can.
Hold it!
Until you heard the gunshot, did you notice anything else that was out of the ordinary? I didn't hear any other strange sounds until that gunshot. Gunshot suspect I've heard was really the one from the murder. That would give that other piece of evidence an entirely different meaning. I ask that you please amend your testimony with that statement just now. Sure. The balloon! The balloon!
Objection!
Detective Bad, does this balloon fragment remind you of anything? Same one color as the one Kay was holding. Oh, so you knew about that girl's balloon? Yeah, I was sitting with her up in the gallery. During the recess, just before we split up, I filled that balloon up for her. Well, as you may have already surmised, this piece did indeed come from Kay's balloon. So, what about the balloon? I wonder if you might remember hearing this balloon pop at some point. What are you getting at? This fragment was found in the hallway right in front of lobby number 2. Furthermore, It was the second sound of this balloon popping that the judge mistook as a gunshot. Oh? So the sound that the judge heard was not actually a gunshot? Huh? On top of that, His Honor said that he heard the balloon pop about 20 minutes before the trial was to reconvene. Yes, which means that His Honor heard the balloon pop in the hallway when you were in lobby number 1, Detective Bad. And if you were in lobby number 1 at the time, you were close enough that you should have heard the balloon popping as well. So? Well, don't give me a so. It just proves that there's a flaw in your testimony. The crackling of the truth is louder than the sound of your sweet naivete cracking. And since you kids don't seem to know, let me fill you in on something. Did you ever stop to think why the doors and walls of this place seem so rugged? That's because they were designed to keep secrets from being leaked. But what is that supposed to mean? The doors and walls are super thick. The window panes are double layered. To top it all off, even the curtains are made of a special sound-absorbing material. Then you mean... Since I was shut up inside lobby number 1, there was no way I could have heard that sound. No! I knew that's what he was going to say. Then that means that Scruffface's testimony is completely useless. If the rooms are soundproof, then of course he wouldn't hear any sign of a struggle. That's also why it's only natural that I didn't hear the balloon popping. Now, do you get it, kids? Miles, I thought VR was supposed to be the ones finding flaws in his logic, not the other way around. The other way around? It's not possible to hear that sound of the balloon popping when we're in lobby number 1. If we examine the situation in reverse, a person standing in the hallway should not be able to hear the real gunshot either. And yet Detective Gumshoe claims to have heard it while he was standing in the hallway. Detective Bad, if that's the case, how exactly did you hear the gunshot? What do you mean? How? I just did. It would appear that you have yet to realize the contradiction in your own words. Oh? How so? If the rooms are soundproof as you say they are, then how did the sound of the gunshot enter your ears? I see what you mean. I guess I'm more out of it from Faraday's murder than I had thought. Which means what exactly, Miles? In the end, what does it all boil down to? It boils down to this. There must be a reason as to how Detective Bad and Gumshoe heard a gunshot they theoretically couldn't have. It looks like we need to examine the state of the crime scene again, huh? The state of the crime scene again, huh? The state of the crime scene. Wait! Can it be? Wah! And way too noisy. Ooh, this is getting interesting. It's time for some logic, folks. The pieces don't fit together quite right. Oh, okay. I mixed it up. My bad. It's simply not possible for the killer to have escaped through barred windows. And yet the fragrance of the perfume managed to escape from defendant lobby number 1. Of course, incorporeal things can move freely through those open barred windows. Now then, what else besides the smell can go both in and out of open barred windows? The answer is sound. So no matter how careful the killer was, if the windows were open, the jig would be... Oh, excuse me. This is the windows of both defendant lobby number 1 and the hallway were open. That explains how the sound of a gunshot could be heard in both locations. The missing piece of evidence is a video that shows the moment at which Mr. Bell killed the embassy staff member. sound of the gunshot left quite an impression on me when it was played during the trial. The video should have been returned to Mr. Faraday's evidence bag for the recess, and brought back here. If it disappeared after that time, then it's possible that the tape is still here in this room. Eureka! The evidence that the missing evidence created for me is the gunshot sound that no one should have been able to hear in the first place. Miles, what have you been thinking about? Stop wasting time thinking and let's start looking again. It's not a waste of time to think, for I figured out where we should look. And where would that be? I believe we should examine the television. The TV. Well, you kids have fun. Go ahead and examine whatever you like. I won't rest until I've inspected every suspicious-looking nook and cranny. It's a video player, and there seems to be a videotape inside. It looks like it. The tape must have stopped on its own when it reached the end. This tape, could it not be the missing surveillance tape? I suppose, but, Detective Bad, would it be alright with you if I verify the contents of this video? Sure. Knock yourself out. Alright, then let's rewind this and see what we have. If I remember correctly, the footage of Rel killing the embassy staff member should be about the 30-minute mark from the start of the tape. This should be about right. Now then, let's see. This is the footage of Mr. Rel shooting the embassy staff member. I knew it. The missing piece of evidence, the surveillance video, was here all along. This sound. What's the meaning of this? It appears that Detective Bad has figured out the true source of the gunshot he heard. With this, I think we can figure out the trick behind this double murder. Do you mean that you figured this all out, Zen? Yes, all I have to do now is show what gunshot Detectives Bad and Gumshoe heard was, and through where they heard it from. Fine. In that case, show me what you've deduced. Show the Gumshoe heard was, and through where they heard it from. I won't rest until I've explained it. Okay, yeah, is this spot somehow connected to any of the evidence I hold?
Eureka!
If the door and windows to the crime scene, namely this room that we're in, were closed, the killer could have used the gun, and no one would have been the wiser. That's true. This courthouse does seem to be well designed for such a thing, as it were. However, what happened in reality was Detective Gumshoe, Detective Bad, and Miss Yu. All three of them heard the gunshot. Well, the windows in lobby number 1 and number 2 and the hallway were open. So naturally, the people in those locations could hear it. But then, why would a criminal open up the window in the first place? I'm sorry if I already read this. I got a little distracted. But then, why would the criminal open the window in the first place? To allow the gunshot to be heard, I suppose. Correct. That's the only logical conclusion we can draw from this. But why was that necessary in the first place? I want a real answer, Miles. I demand satisfaction. Very well. I believe that the killer wanted to manipulate our perception of a certain fact. What was it that the killer wanted to manipulate our perception of when the crime took place? The killer wanted to fabricate the time of... Sorry, god dang it. The killer wanted to fabricate the time of death to their precise wishes. And they used the gunshot in the surveillance video to do so. So that's why the tape was left running. You mean the gunshot I heard was from this video? Yes, which means that the murders really occurred at an earlier time than we thought. It must have been during the recess, but before Detective Gumshoe was on guard duty. Someone who has no alibi for that time period, and planned this crime out in advance. That person is the real killer. Mr. Edgeworth! Yes? What is it? Miss Yu is asking for you. She's in the courtroom. She says that she's identified the murderer, but that she wants to clarify something. Looks like Monsieur is still investigating something. Understood. Please tell her that I will be right over. I'll come along. I want to hear what she has to say. It would appear that the time has come to uncover the truth. To be contended. To be continued. I would very much like to save my progress. Yes, please. Okay, what are you doing here? Oh, hello, mister. I'm still investigating, but the object you're looking for is already... Okay, don't mind him. Please continue with your investigation. Okay, you got it. Detective Bat, haven't we already found what you were looking for? If it means I can keep her in the dark just a little longer, any little task will do. Oh, you're more sympathetic than I thought. Well, he's still a human being. I've been waiting for you, Edgeworth. I've also been waiting for the moment at which we can finally lay this case to rest. The moment at which we can finally lay this case to rest? Wasn't that when we placed Detective Gumshoe under arrest? We more than solved this case already. Well, we'll see. It all depends on whether or not your logic holds. Oh, I see. We even have a viewer in the gallery. Why, even Mr. Bat is here. A viewer in the gallery? I'm hardly just a bystander. I have a duty to see this case through to the end. No matter how it turns out. Oh, is that right? Anyway, I thought you might like to hear what I've slaved away to find out. I've taken statements on every single person's movements during the time when our suspect was in the hallway. I also confirmed that there's no possible route of escape from lobby number 2. Therefore, the killer must without doubt be Detective Gumshoe. And that's all you have? Yeah, that's all there is to my conclusion. In this case, sorry, but I beg to differ. In a trial, there is always time for a rebuttal, and we are standing in a court of law. I'd be more than appropriate to follow the rules of the court in this case, don't you think? Oh, absolutely like a rookie to think such a thing. But alright, I'll play along and give you a proper testimony. My logic's correct, then I've already won. All I have to do now is to prove it, by showing who the real killer is. Everyone says the suspect has an alibi for when the gun went off. Furthermore, the areas around the crime scene have all been thoroughly investigated, right? I also confirm that there is no possible escape route from lobby number 2. Which leaves us with one unshakable conclusion, that Detective Gumshoe is the killer. Phew. How'd you have your testimony? I expect a good rebuttal, Edgeworth. But of course, there is no need to confront her logic head-on right now. She should instead focus on drawing out any trump card she has up her sleeve. Press everything!
Hold it!
The suspect, but I thought that Detective Gumshoe's alibi has already been proven. Are you joking, Edgeworth? I assure you, this is no joke. Look, I know you heard from the judge earlier that the detective was in the hallway with Mr. Faraday's daughter eating a Swiss roll. Yes, that is correct. But see, that was 20 minutes before the real gunshot went off, right? And the problem is there's no one else who can corroborate what he did since the snacking. I see she's done her research well, which means that I should focus on drawing out whatever trump card she's withholding.
Hold it!
Whether they have been thoroughly investigated or not is for me to decide. Such eyebrows in your lines of your forehead are bad. I mean, even if you believe it hasn't been exhausted, the crime scene, lobby number 2, has no way out other than the hallway Detective Gumshoe was standing in. And because he claimed to be there, that makes him the only possible suspect. But isn't it also possible that someone escaped through a window and into the garden? that's the first place, everyone looks silly. The police aren't a bunch of lazy bums. They looked into every possibility, you know. Isn't that right, Mr. Bad? Yeah. There wasn't a scrap of evidence to suggest someone used one of the windows. There also weren't any footprints or anything in the courtyard garden. I suppose they really did check everything that could be relevant to the case.
Hold it!
Are you absolutely positive that there are no possible routes of escape? Of course I'm sure. And why are you so certain? This is a courthouse, a place where criminals are about to be judged. If there was an escape route, I'm sure every criminal would be using it to escape. It's just common sense. Miles Edgeworth, I suggest you use a bit more of it in the future. God!
Hold it!
You may think it's unshakable to me. There are still too many unanswered questions. For example, who was it that placed the gun in Mr. Faraday's hand? But you're the only one still wondering that. That Gunshot probably had no idea which hand Mr. Faraday used to write with. Even if you know someone, it doesn't mean you'll know which hand they write with, right? I mean, I certainly don't care about that sort of thing. I'm not about to let it get a rise out of me with such a flippant statement. I suppose we've really reached the end now. I already have my trump card ready. All that remains is to play it. But before I do, I think I should inquire into a little something about her argument. You said earlier that you confirmed the alibis of every person other than the suspect. However, I don't recall either Francesca or myself speaking with you about the subject. Ah, but there were witnesses for you. For you, there's your mentor who gave you an alibi. I see. As for the little Missy, she came to the courthouse during the recess and was stopped by a security guard at the door to the hallway. She gave him quite a whipping for that, or so I heard. I am the daughter of Manfred von Kamm, and I will not be forcibly stopped by a guard or a bailiff or anyone else. Wait, so basically, the only reason Francesca bothered to show up today was because she found out that I was to be the replacement prosecutor. By the way, Miss Yu, what about everyone's alibis before Detective Gumshoe was assigned to guard duty? What about them? Have you looked into what people were doing during that span of time? What kind of an idiot do you take me for? It doesn't matter when the killer went into lobby number 2. From the time we heard the gunshot, to the time Mr. Bad and I arrived on the scene as we dashed from lobby number 1, the only person who could have committed the crime was Detective Gumshoe. Yes, let's talk about when you and Detective Bad heard that gunshot, shall we? I suppose that if we go by your logic, then Detective Gumshoe was the only one. However, what if the crime had occurred at an entirely different time than when that gunshot you heard went off? What then? That gunshot was a trap meant to manipulate our perception of when the crime took place. Sadly, your explanation is very lacking, Edgeworth. The gunshot we heard in lobby number 1, care to explain how that could have been fabricated?
Take that!
The tape? Yes, it's exactly what you think it is. This is the surveillance tape of Mr. Rell the prosecution presented in today's trial. This was found loaded into the video player in lobby number 2. That was connected to a large television that has volume turned all the way up. You can't honestly mean that sound we heard was gunshot in the video. Ah, but I do. Which leads me to my next point. The murders occurred much earlier than when anyone heard the gunshot. That's the only thing I can think of, too. After committing double homicide, the killer took the surveillance video out from Mr. Faraday's evidence bag, turned the television's volume all the way up, and left the video to play. If played from the beginning, it would take 30 minutes for the gunshot sound to come on. And since we now know that this method of time manipulation is possible, it opens up the possibility that the killer is someone other than Detective Gumshoe. Sounds from a television doesn't amount to much here. But of course, Mr. Prosecutor's Edgeworth and Little Miss Von Karma already knew that much from the very beginning, right? Of course we knew! Don't we, Miles? Yes, of course. We know about the soundproof quality of this courthouse's rooms. Of course, I'm not about to admit we had no idea until only a little while ago. That's right, and if the rooms are soundproof, then we should not have been able to hear it. And yet we heard the gunshot clear as day. That's it, end of story. But it's not. How should I explain why she was able to hear a gunshot from a soundproof room? Well, we will do that next time on Ace Attorney Investigations. That's right, we are at time. I have a feeling we're about to come to the end of this case, and I'm pretty sure the only one left who it could be is Miss Yu. So I totally believe she did it now. But we'll find that out next time. So thank you all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to anytime for more content, especially more Ace Attorney Investigations. Also, please make sure to share this video far and wide so we can get as many eyes on it as possible. I'll see you in the next one.